Hello. Are you a solopreneur looking for Mac productivity hacks that will help you to do more in less clicks? Let's jump right into it. This episode is focusing on third-party tools that are either free or very inexpensive to further speed up your workflows on your Mac. The first one is Raycast, then Moom, and then BetterTouchTool. So let's start with Raycast, which I would call Spotlight on steroids. If you missed episode 58, Spotlight is a feature from macOS, which is invoked by the keyboard shortcut Command Space, and it allows to quickly launch applications, find and open documents, folders, contacts, emails. What I didn't mention is that Spotlight can also perform quick calculations and even currency conversions or converting between the metric and the US unit system. So for instance, that's how I converted my cursor travel distance from kilometers into miles. So yeah, Spotlight is great, but limited. And this is where a third-party solution like Raycast comes in. And the best is that everything that I will be talking about today is available for free. Now, the first reason I love Raycast so much is because it is extensible and it comes with 11 built-in extensions, which allow you to, among other things, check your calendar, access your clipboard history, create and complete reminders, you can move and resize application windows, and many more. And on top of that, for each action related to each extension, you can configure your own keyboard shortcuts. And this is especially useful if you want to use Raycast to manage the position and the size of the application windows. Here are a few examples that make my life easier. I've configured Control-Shift-Left arrow to resize a window so that it takes the left half of the screen. Then it will be Control-Shift-Right arrow to do the same on the right half of the screen. I've even chosen 4 keys that are near each other and that form a 4x4 square in order to reposition windows in any of the 4 corners of the screen. In addition to the 11 pre-built extensions, there is a vast extension ecosystem. At the time of recording, there are about 1,100 extensions available. Here are a few that I'm using. There is a Google Translate extension, so you don't need to open the website. You just copy-paste the words or sentences, and it will automatically translate it. You can search the DuckDuckGo engine right from the desktop through Raycast. If you need to know how many characters or many words a snippet of text contains, there is an extension called Count. If you do graphic design or if you need to know or grab the hex code of a color that you see on the screen, there is an extension called Color Picker. And so you just click on the color that you see and you want, and automatically the hex code is copied to the clipboard. So you just need to go to wherever you need to, Command V, and you can paste it. Now, if you do ChatGPT, if you need prompts, there is an extension called GPT-3 Prompt Search, which is a collection of boilerplate prompts for different tasks, for instance, plagiarism checking, or it has also predefined roles, like you can make it such as the initial prompt is as if you were a motivational speaker, and so on. There is a speed test extension allowing you to quickly know the speed of your internet connection. You can also know your IP address, the IP geolocalization, and so on. Some of the extensions require an API key. API stands for Application Programming Interface. It is needed when you want to perform actions on the back end of a web service or a website without the need to click and physically interact with it. And to get an API key, you you usually need to have an account with the website service. And in some cases, you also need to pay based on the number of API requests that are performed through Raycast. 3 examples: searching images and videos on Pixabay or on Pexels. If you have an account on those 2 websites, you can get for free an API key. And then you can put that API key into the Pixabay or Pexel extension inside Raycast. And so from within Raycast, you can immediately search the Pexels or Pixabay database. There is a ChatGPT extension. So if you have an OpenAI API key, which is a paid service, you will pay for every time that you query the OpenAI API. Then from Raycast, you can immediately enter prompts and get answers from ChatGPT. There is an extension called YouTube Video Summary, which also requires an OpenAI API key. So what you do is you paste a YouTube URL, and then that extension has been built in such a way that it will go use OpenAI to fetch the transcript of the YouTube video, and then will give you a summary right from within Raycast. Everything that I've been talking so far is free, barring the API key billing, obviously. But as much as Raycast, the application, is concerned, you don't need to pay anything to Raycast for what I've talked about. If you want more features, then it becomes a paid subscription, including, for instance, unlimited clipboard history. If you want to be able to synchronize the configuration of Raycast, meaning all the extensions that you have configured, the keyboard shortcuts that you have defined, and so on. And if you have 2 Macs, you've spent a lot of time configuring Raycast on one Mac, and you would like not to do the same for the other Mac, then you would need to pay a subscription for Raycast to have this synchronization of settings. If you don't have an OpenAI API key and you don't want to go to the trouble of creating an OpenAI account and managing all that, Raycast now is offering what they call Raycast AI, which basically is ChatGPT, but it's using their own API key, OpenAI API key, meaning that then you just pay Raycast rather than paying OpenAI. The Pro plan for Raycast starts at $10 per month or $96 per year, and it uses GPT 3.5. If you want GPT 4 via Raycast AI, then it's $18 per month. Now, on my side, I'm really happy with what I can do for free. I have an OpenAI API key anyway, so I don't feel the need to get more than that. Now, let's turn our attention to Moom, for which I would like to highlight 3 interesting capabilities. The number 1 is window tiling, the second one is custom window layouts, and the third one is snap to edges and corner. Let's go and define what it is. So window tiling. By default, in macOS, when you hover the mouse over the green bubble right in the top left corner of an application window, you have these 3 bubbles, red, yellow, green. If you hover the mouse over the green one, you have the choice between moving the application window full screen, or you can initiate a vertical split screen mode. For instance, that window, you can decide, I'm going to put that window on the left. It will ask you which one do you want on the half right of the screen. With Moom, you can overwrite this behavior, giving you 2 more options. You can have actually in horizontal splits. So you can do everything that is built in, but you can also decide that one application window will take the top half of the screen or the bottom half of the screen. And like with Raycast, in Moom, you can configure keyboard shortcuts to quickly move and resize application windows. But where it goes beyond what you can do with Raycast is that you are not limited to predefined options. Basically, you can configure almost any window size or position that you need. And on top of that, it offers custom window layouts. What does it mean? There are situations when every time I do something, it's always the same windows that are opened, and I want those windows to always be at the same place. For instance, when I have my weekly one-to-one meeting with the president of the BNI chapter that I'm managing, I usually have Slack in the top left corner, OneNote in the bottom left corner, Zoom in the top right corner, and PowerPoint in the bottom right corner. So I could select each window, then using the keyboard shortcuts, reposition them, but it's still a manual operation. Now with Moom, I can position the windows as I want them and then record that layout, the positioning and the size of those windows. I can give it a name, I can assign it a keyboard shortcut. So now, as long as I have those 4 windows opened, so Slack, OneNote, Zoom, and PowerPoint, when I press Control-Option-Command-B, all those windows, doesn't matter where they are, how big they are, they will resize and reposition immediately in their corner. So very quick, no need to click and drag and resize manually. The last feature of Moom that I'd like to discuss is called Snap to Edges and Corners. Those of you who are familiar with Microsoft Windows, you will remember that if you drag a window, let's say to the right edge of the screen, what happens is that it can automatically expand to take the right half of the screen, then asking you which window do you want on the left half. Well, Moom offers the same capability. Now, pay attention, because if you have defined hot corners, which I've introduced in episode 59, you might have conflicts. If you position the mouse in a corner and it's both a hot corner and something that Moom expects to do, you might not like the behavior. If you have defined spaces, so different desktops on your one Mac, then it will also conflict with that. And if you have multiple monitors, it's also the same. Okay, you go to the edge of the screen, either Moom kicks in or you want to go to the other monitor. So be careful with that. In terms of cost, you can use Moom for free 300 times, but then you will need to pay a one-time license fee of $10, which is really a bargain. Now, I've kept the most powerful tool for the end, and it's called BetterTouchTool. As the name suggests, you can easily configure your own magic mouse or magic trackpad gestures in order to trigger a bunch of things. You can make BetterTouchTool open files, launch applications, resize and position application windows. You can interact with applications, meaning that you can launch a series of keyboard shortcuts. So if in your workflow you need to do several things always in the same order, yes, obviously you could learn the keyboard shortcuts and do them one after the other, but with BetterTouchTool you could do one thing and the 3 or 4 keyboard shortcuts you do in a row will be applied automatically. And you can even further then launch automations. So it's compatible with shortcuts, Apple Script, Automator. In terms of triggers, you can do more than the magic mouse and the magic trackpad gestures. You can define your own keyboard shortcuts. If you have a MacBook Pro with a touch bar, you can also use then the touch bar as the trigger. If you have an Apple TV Siri remote, you can use that. The developer has created an iPhone and an iPad application called BetterTouchTool Remote. And so from your iPhone or your iPad, you can trigger stuff that can happen on your Mac. It could be time-based. It could be when you open a specific URL. It could be when you connect to a given Wi-Fi network, or when one of your devices is within Bluetooth range. You can see it's a really, really powerful application. Now, I would recommend trying it out only when you have exhausted what you can do either with native macOS capabilities or with Raycast and Moom. In terms of price, you can try it for free for 45 days. And after that, you have two options. You can pay $10 for 2 years of software updates, or you can pay $22 for a lifetime license. Again, it's quite inexpensive. And if you have a setup subscription, so SETAPP, it's a subscription that allows you to install and use more than 240 applications, which starts at $9.99 per month for one Mac and goes up to $14.99 per month for 4 Macs and 4 iOS devices. If you have that, you can then use BetterTouchTool, not for free, but it's part of the package. By the way, a link to all the tools that I've mentioned in this episode will be available at macpreneur.com/episode. So to recap, the goal of this episode was to explore third-party utilities that can help you drastically minimize the number of unnecessary clicks on your Mac. I have started with Raycast, a very powerful and extensible alternative to Spotlight. Then I've covered Moom, an all-in-one utility to manage application windows. And I finished with BetterTouchTool, the Swiss Army knife of Mac automation. In the next episode, episode 61, I will dive deeper into strategies and techniques to minimize repetitive typing. So that's it for today. If you'd like to know how well you are currently coping with the 3 killers of Mac productivity, I've prepared a free quiz available at macpreneur.com/score, SCORE. So visit macpreneur.com/score to discover your Mac productivity score today. And until next time, I'm Damien Schreurs, wishing you a great day.